You might be a gringo if at CrossFit you ask your coach if you can stretch muchos hombres instead of muchos hombros. Hombros, shoulders, hombres, men. Good afternoon, amigos, from Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. Okay, she's bringing the energy. Today we have something a little different for you. I know I say that every episode, but I do try and make them all interesting.
But he means it.
I mean it this time. Today we're gonna share a few silly mistakes we have made and some other expats have made while living here in Mexico.
It's a new segment we'd like to call, You Might Be a Gringo in Mexico If.
So if you're new around here, I'm Greg.
I'm Hillary.
And we create daily videos about our life here in Mexico. So if you like Mexico, if you like traveling, and if you like learning, if you like watching two gringos attempt to learn about Mexico, consider subscribing.
Before we jump into our mistakes, we would like to know your mistakes. So drop a comment below and let us know some silly mistakes you've made the first time in a new country.
Yeah.
We have plenty. Let's go.
You might be a gringo if it takes you 20 minutes every time to light the gas oven because we've never had a gas oven before. It's that might sound silly, but I can't do it.
Baking is a whole new deal. You might be a gringo if you don't understand anything that's happening at CrossFit. You just follow what everybody else is doing.
That's a decent strategy.
Don't head for the bathroom or the locker room. Because then it's just awkward.
You might be a gringo if you accidentally order a side of meat instead of rice because you think the word res meant rice.
Oh, that. And to add insult to injury, the person who ordered the res for doesn't eat res. You might be a gringo if you pronounce this city Puerto Vallarta or Puerto Vallarta.
How would you pronounce this city?
Puerto Vallarta.
He's a natural. You might be a gringo if you don't call the fire department immediately after realizing there's a fire in your apartment. For some reason, we left the apartment, we got out quickly, we headed to a coffee shop, and we were just
making small talk, and we told her that there's a small fire in our house, like any other Tuesday.
She was like, "Did you call the fire department?" No. I didn't even think about that. I don't know. I don't have an explanation.
So she called for us.
It was a güero moment.
You might be a gringo if you think some old man on a bus is trying to steal your seat until you realize that you have assigned seats and you are actually in his seat.
Yes.
Guilty.
We were very confused. I thought this old man was trying to I just thought maybe he's old, he needs a place to sit. I guess I'll just stand up for the rest of the 3-hour bus ride until some nice people on the bus told me that we had assigned seats and we were just in the wrong seats.
Oops.
You might be a gringo if you consistently call Oaxaca, Oaxaca.
Guilty!
Just a couple hundred times.
You might be a gringo if you thought you ordered pizza verde, but instead you ordered picadilla verde.
I don't know how we did that one. There's some confusion, maybe it was mumbling. You might be a gringo if you try and pronounce the word for ice in Spanish as I don't even know how, hielo, and your friend is yelling at you from across OXXO saying, yellow! I had the hardest time ordering ice because that H was really throwing me for a loop. This one comes straight from the great Ed Bushman. Sir Ed Bushman, that's what was great. I thought it was great. He's great and he's a sir. This last year I was giving a tour of the Zona Romantica to some friends who had never been here before. I was telling them to watch their steps since the sidewalks are very uneven, and just as I was saying it, I tripped over a step in the sidewalk and it fell flat on my face.
Oh!
Classic Ed. You might be a gringo if you're Ed Bushman.
You might be a gringo if wanting to make pasta and I went into Mega to ask the clerk in English for Alfredo sauce. In Spanish, he asked me to wait 1 moment, please, and I waited for 10 minutes and he came back and said in English, sorry, Alfredo doesn't work until Friday. Oops.
You might be a gringo if, when I first moved to Mexico, when I first moved to PV and I did not know how the buses worked very well, I got on one with Central in the windshield and took a seat right behind the driver. I started to notice we were heading in the opposite direction of El Centro, and there were more and more people getting off the bus. We were in a very rural area, and I ended up being the only one left. We pulled into a vacant lot with absolutely nothing around. I then, in Spanish, asked the driver where we were, which scared the bejeebers out of him because he didn't realize I was sitting behind him. So I mistakenly got on a bus heading from El Centro to quit for the day. He was so kind to get another bus to come and get me and take me back to town, a situation that could have turned bad, but he was very nice and a complete gentleman. I think we have all gringos here had our own stories on a bus or taxi where it was just, we completely messed it up, but they ended up helping us out. They saved the day for us.
You might be a gringo if Lola is not a good name for your dog in Mexico. I would have her outside and be calling, Lola, Lola. The locals would wave and say hola. It happened every day. I'm pretty sure they were saying to themselves, that dumb blonde must only know one word in Spanish.
That's nice, I hadn't read that one. You might be a gringo if I ventured out to a bank when I moved here 7 years ago, thinking I could handle the simple Spanish required to make corrections to my checking account. The girl was apologizing for the errors in my account. I turned to her and used what I thought was a word for no problem. She looked at me shocked. I said, sin pedo. Translated, no fart. I brought my interpreter in the future until I got my Spanish down. So embarrassed.
That's pretty embarrassing. Might be a gringo if I originally named my dog Miel, but got sick of the Mexicans saying Miguel, so now I just call her Honey. I will never fully master the accent. Nice. Miguel, Miel.
That's pretty close. That's better than mine, probably. You might be a gringo if asked for pimento at a street vendor and got handed a big jar of pickled peppers instead of pepper, so I cut up picked peppers and mixed them in my rice. Sometimes you just gotta go with it.
You might be a gringo if I went to Lay's, walked right up to the meat counter and tried to explain I wanted skinless chicken thighs. Nothing went right, no one understood. So here I am standing by the meat counter, slapping my thighs and yelling pollo. Finally, another gringa took pity on me and told them in Spanish what I wanted. After they all finished laughing, they could get their breath back. I got my chicken thighs and was on my way.
You might be a gringo if I loudly asked the fruit vendor owner for a tip, and I said it over and over, where's the tip? Don't confuse the word cucumber with the word tip in Spanish. That's propina is tip, and pepino would be cucumber. ¿Dónde está mi propina? That's awesome. Propina, por favor. I mean, for God's sake, how hard is it to get a propina around here?
You might be a gringo if went to the grocery store to buy ice packs. With my limited Spanish, I explained to the clerk I wanted and he answered yellow. I told him, no, ice packs are blue. I started again explaining and he kept saying yellow. I kept telling him, blue ice packs, they're blue. This lasted 20 minutes. I finally went home with no ice packs. I told my wife, I think ice packs must be yellow. In Mexico, they're not blue. She cracked up and told me the word hielo means ice.
See, I'm glad I'm not the only one.
You're the only ice problem.
Yeah, that H, it just didn't make any sense. You might be a gringo if, after winning my 5th pool game in a row at Benja's Bar, I proudly announced I was the champiñones of the bar. Everyone agreed. I was stuck with that name for a long time. Champiñones means mushrooms. Champiñones, I think, means champion.
I don't know.
Either way, champiñones means mushroom.
It's probably champiñones.
Champiñones.
Champiñones. You might be a gringo if asking your housekeeper if she has a man instead of hunger. Simple mistake. Tienes hambre versus tienes hombre.
You might be a gringo if, at CrossFit, you ask your coach if you can stretch muchos hombres instead of muchos hombros. Hombros, shoulders, hombres, men.
You might be a gringo if we were told by my granddaughter to try tamales our first year there. We found a vendor and bought 2. We walked to a bench on the Malecon and started eating them. We both agreed it was tough to chew, and we eventually threw them in the trash. We found out later you have to remove the husk. 22 years ago, and I still laugh at the memory.
Classic gringo.
Go! Those corn, I can't believe you successfully ate corn husks.
Yeah,
that's pretty good. You must be a champiñones.
You might be a gringo if I walked around saying escúchame thinking it was excuse me, which makes sense, but I believe escúchame means something like listen to me. I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but that's...
This is the opposite.
Escúchame sounds like excuse me. Escúchame.
You might be a gringo if I said, tengo mucho dolor en mi cabeza instead of saying my head. I said my pumpkin. So she's trying to say I have a lot of pain in my head, but she accidentally said I have a lot of pain in my pumpkin.
You might be a gringo if I told someone at work on a rainy day in heels, ciudades, cities, instead, cuidado, careful, when first learning Spanish. To be fair, those are pretty close, and the IU-UI is pretty difficult. Well, those are all of the silly things we have done, and some...
That's not all.
It's not all of them, it was just the ones we picked for this video. Maybe if you guys like this video, we can do something like this again in the future. I know it's way different than our normal vlogs, but I think when I threw this out there to the Facebook group and here in Vallarta, the response was insane. It was huge. It really was a big response.
It makes us feel, I think it makes me feel good to know that we are not the only ones who have struggled with this or who are able to like look at these
and make fun of ourselves.
Yeah.
Sometimes we just take ourselves way too seriously. And I think it's just good to laugh at ourselves every now and then, and it's a lot better than laughing at other people, but hopefully you were able to laugh at us, and maybe if you comment below with some of your mishaps, we can in turn laugh at you, or you can just comment and say ja 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 ja. I know it's pronounced haha, but it still looks like ja ja to me.
Obviously we've learned so much in the last year about ourselves, about each other, about Mexico, the food, the culture, the people here, but we've made a lot of mistakes along the way, and we feel like that's part of this, that's part of growing. So thank you guys for being a part of this. Thank you for sharing in our mistakes, for laughing at us, for laughing with us. We've told you guys before that we find humor in a lot of things, and that's how we like to live our life. So thanks for being a humorous part of our day, every day.
Yes. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Click the bell, that way you get notified.
Every time. I don't know how he messes this up every time.
We upload a new video, and we will see ya mañana.
Adios.
Bye-bye.